What's happening, fam? I'm Ryan Milton from TeamFFLEX. You're on my show, Fitness Fire, TeamFFLEX TV. We run this every Thursday where I come to you and I tell you about what's going on right now, what's happening, the hot topics, the fire topics of the fitness industry. Today we're going to continue on with our wellness train, and we're going to talk about kind of how wellness has evolved from when it was announced, what we thought it would be, to what it is now, and where it could be going. We're going to talk about what it's currently going on right now that's changing things. If you are somebody who wants to compete in wellness, or you are competing in wellness, you definitely want to pay attention to the stuff I'm about to tell you, all right? We've been talking about wellness literally all week, though. If you want information on, nutrition, training, first call-outs where we're talking about posing and everything else, watch the last 3 episodes on TeamFFLEX TV, all right? We got all that covered for you. Today, we're going to talk specifically about the updates and what's going on and where I think wellness is going to end up, all right? So, if you don't understand what wellness is yet, I'm going to go ahead and break it down for you one more time, give you the hit and miss, because I don't know if you knew or if you've already seen it. If you've already seen it, big deal. You're learning it again. It's good to hammer in your head. Wellness is a more lower body dominant version of bikini. All right, this is what you got to know. This is basically the best way to put it, meaning the upper body muscle should be pretty on par with what we see in bikini. Midsection, all that, abs, all that, same as what we see in bikini. Conditioning wise, same as what we've been seeing in bikini. But where we're talking about a dramatic difference and why this is its own category is in the lower body muscular development. The glutes in wellness, way more developed. The quads in wellness, way more developed. Hamstrings in wellness, way more developed. Everything is more developed in the lower body. It's actually it is the only asymmetrical women's division, meaning in bikini, they're looking up in the lower shape, making sure it matches symmetry, all that. Well, wellness, you actually need to be a little bit out of symmetry and have a more dominant lower body, and that's what wellness is for. And it was made basically so, women that have more lower body muscle, a lot of athletes that have been, training with weights for years, or maybe they transition from a different sport like power. I've been getting a lot of powerlifting clients coming to train for wellness now, and all kinds of other things. Or you just prefer that lower body muscle look. Well, it's a good division for you to go, because before, literally, if you wanted to do compete in bodybuilding, you would have had to do bikini probably, and that would mean losing a lot of muscle to actually do that. So wellness is this category where that is actually applauded. They want you to have the thicker, bigger legs, and that is really what it's all about. The lower body dominance is the difference between bikini and wellness for the most part. Now, this was announced, I don't even know, probably almost a year ago it could have been now. I could look back, but I've been doing content on this division since it launched. I've asked all the top judges, I've done interviews, I've done all kinds of stuff with people talking about this division, and now here we are after we've seen some shows actually happen, right? We've been able to see this go on at some bigger level shows, some national shows, and obviously at regional, smaller level shows across the country at this point. It's the newest addition to the NPC and the IFBB as far as divisions go. It's the newest division for the women's divisions, for sure. And so that's what's really been going on here. And when it was coming out, the rules had been out, things were talked about. I talked to a lot of the judges. They were saying, this is what we're going to look for. We want to see everything basically be similar to bikini except for the lower body development, meaning conditioning wise and shoulders and all that. And then when this thing kicked off really at, I'd say the first biggest look we got at was the Arnold, where, back in March. Now it's crazy to think how much time has passed, but that was where we really got to see it. And that was the first, wellness pro in the States right there being made on stage. And so when we saw that at the Arnold, that was when we got our best glimpse at it. The Arnold Amateur, it was amateur because nobody was a pro yet in wellness. And so now we have pros in wellness, and that was where we really got to see it. But what we also saw at that level was a lot of variance because, right, it's a brand new division. This is what you see every time these new divisions come around. There's a lot of things that were different, a lot of different athletes, a lot of changes. And we're going to cover all that in just a second when we get back from the break. we talk about the Arnold, and that being the first real look we got at wellness, really what we saw was this high variance in athletes, right? We saw different looks, a lot of different posing, a lot of things have changed since this time, but what we did see was a very varied amounts of physiques, right? We saw some come in softer, some come in harder, some with more muscle, some with less muscle, you know, things like that. That's really where we got to see it at that level. And way back at the first wellness competition that took place in the States was actually at Muscle Contest at the LA Fit Expo. I was covering that too. We were talking about all that then, and we saw the same kind of thing. You know, we saw a lot of the same type of variance, you know, and this is what happens every time there's a new division. You're going to get a lot of different stuff coming to stage until the organization really says, hey, this is specifically exactly what we want to see. It was this, now we want to see this, right? And we saw that with some posing changes where they nixed that teapot arm, which we talked about yesterday, yet we're still seeing that. It's now in the official rules that if you do teapot arm on stage, which is where you put your arm out to the side and you know you got your other hand here and you pose and you look like a little teapot, you do that on stage, you're getting scored down. And that changed officially months ago. I was talking about that for years before wellness even came around because we saw it in bikini, but now it's an official rule. That was a change. That was something we saw different. And most recently, and why we're talking about it on Fitness Fire today, we saw some big developments coming around regarding conditioning, all right? And so this is something that now they're starting to crack down on, which even early on, literally back in January or February, I can't remember exactly when the first the Fit Expo, I think it's February, the first week in February. Back then I was saying, hey, we're seeing girls already in wellness, in my opinion, based on what I know about the division, coming in too hard. Well, now Tyler Mannion has been on his story, and I've seen many you know, of the top judges and everything talking about this now, that basically the conditioning and wellness has been trending too hard, and that's where it's been trending over recent months, right? It was set pretty standard at the Arnold. Yeah, that's why I'm talking about that show being our first real big look at it, because we had the most variance. We had, you know, obviously the first Wellness Pro there that basically defines the division at that point, and with that, you know, the conditioning, all that was laid out. But then it started to trend way too hard at the amateur level, all right? And so we're talking about the NPC and more of the regional shows and things like that that have been going on. Obviously, with the pandemic happening, there was that pause on shows. There's a break. There's a lot of stuff going on this year. You guys, everybody knows. I don't have to tell you. We all know that. But basically, with that, now we've started to see more and more shows actually go on, more and more people competing in these categories. And what was tending to start to happen was competitors were trending too hard. They were getting too lean. Wellness competitors getting too lean. And that was something I thought I saw way back, and I even saw some of that at the Arnold, and they did not place well. And now we've been seeing it at the amateur level. And so basically, I've seen, you know, Tyler Mannion, as I mentioned, on his social media talking about this, and I've seen, you know, other judges saying, hey, this is going to be something they're really looking at now. Conditioning is supposed to be, as stated in the official rules on NPC News Online, and I encourage you to check them out if you don't understand. Go look at it. Conditioning should be on par with bikini, and this is meaning that it's a softer level of conditioning, okay? Like figure, for example, is another women's division. This is a much leaner level of conditioning. That is not how you should be looking in wellness, yet that is what we have been seeing, and in some cases at some shows and some levels. Competitors showing up with very lean conditioning, showing muscle splits, you know, separation in their shoulders, separation in their quads. These are things that you don't want to see in wellness division. So the conditioning is supposed to be on par with bikini, and that's a soft level of conditioning. Bikini conditioning is the softest level of conditioning that you are going to find in any of these women's divisions, right? When we're talking about all of them, it's the softest, and since wellness is on par, well, wellness is also the softest category in the women's divisions for the NPC and the IFBB, and so that means that as these women have been trending too hard, even though you might have placed, you know, some shows where we've seen some competitors that were probably too lean when they were on the show, whatever, now that trend is going to change. They're going to want to see you start returning back to the base level conditioning, basically not doing anything dramatic, but following the actual rules as laid out and defined by the organization. So that's something we're going to see now moving forward, right? We kind of started back where we were when this category came, and now we're kind of in present day. And we really just saw the most of this kind of example going down at the North Americans, which was a national show, and it went on despite everything going on, and we got more wellness pros out of that. We got another wellness pro out of that that national level show here, and we also got to see what the top call-outs looked like, and that's current today. That was literally, I think, last weekend. Every day blurs together at this point, but it was literally last week. So this is the most up-to-date information. We're going to cover that in just a second. Right now, I just want to remind you, I know you just saw the little graphics, but if you want an example of wellness training, wellness nutrition, wellness posing, whatever you need, you can get it on our free trial, TeamFFLEX.com. Go check that thing out. Put your email in the box. It's an instant invitation. You never pay us a dime. You never put a card in. You never do anything. It's free. And we do it as a give back. Just the same reason I do all this content for you. That's what we do with the free trial. To help you do more, get better, and get further. And we can do all that with wellness too, since that's our topic of the week. All right? Now, I want to talk about North Americans, because we just saw North Americans. And if you have the time to do this, I strongly encourage it. I'll throw up some pictures now in the video, but I strongly encourage you to check out the actual placings on npcnewsonline.com. Go there and look at North Americans, go to the wellness category, and you're going to see who the overall was who became an IFBB Pro, and you'll be able to see also all the top level call-outs, okay? They'll have the classes, and they'll have, you know, the top 5, 10, so on and so forth. And basically with this, you're going to get to see what's being rewarded right now. And as you go and look, if you really do this, you're going to see everything we've talked about literally this week on all these past 3 shows coming together in one spot. We're talking about, you know, the muscle base being on the right point, conditioning being on the right point. That's kind of what we covered with nutrition, right? And then also posing and everything else being on point, on par, correct, and that's what it takes to get yourself into that call out. Ladies and gents, and you know, that's what's going to take for you to get pro cards and move on in this division. Now, what we also saw not placing was exactly what has been stated before. Bad posing. It's not going to work. You can't do this teapot arm. You can't do the bent over poses, the stuff that's going on right now that I talked about yesterday on first callouts. You can't be doing any of that. That's going to score you down, especially if it's in the official rulebook not to do, ladies and gents. Teapot arms got to go. Get that out of your routine. We also saw conditioning really scoring a lot of these women lower, obviously, than others, because their conditioning actually was, guess what? As stated before by Tyler Manning himself, too hard, coming in too conditioned for this category. You got to be on par with the division, ladies. You got to not diet too hard. You got to stay in a softer level conditioning that's on par with bikini. And the reason I keep saying on par with bikini is because, yes, wellness has been around now, it's been going on. We still don't have a ton of examples of it, not years and years of it, in other words, right? But in bikini, we do. You can go look at bikini callouts for the last, amount of time, a year, 2 years even, and you're going to see this kind of level of conditioning at hundreds and hundreds of shows at that point, right? So it's a lot more of an example than actual wellness, where we have, a few shows that have happened, bigger shows where we can really see what they're actually looking for at the judging point. But the point here is, you got to understand, if these are the same, you can look at both and get the same kind of idea. And with women coming in too hard, they're scoring down now. And this is a trend we're seeing in the judging. So anybody preparing for wellness, do not overdo your conditioning. You should not show up with figure, women's physique, any of these levels of conditioning. You're going to have to go to those divisions if you do that. And it's an entirely different division where you're going to need a whole different level of muscle, a whole different posing, all that, right? So if you want to be a wellness competitor, then you need to make sure you're on par with conditioning. And as I said before, competitors are always so concerned with conditioning. It's almost crazy how concerned competitors are that they're never going to be lean enough. Well, it's actually one of the least things you should worry about as a competitor, especially in these women's divisions like wellness and bikini, where it's a softer look. The most thing you should prioritize, and Sandy Williamson says this herself at every seminar I've ever seen her speak at, she says, the best thing to do, honestly, if it's a battle between conditioning or muscle, is to come in with softer conditioning that maybe you won't do as good at the show because your conditioning's not good, but you have the right muscle. Meaning, in other words, if you go into a show too lean, now you have to take a serious amount of time off to actually, rebuild the muscle you lost. Because anytime you diet too lean, you're coming in too lean, you're burning muscle while you're dieting. And that's something you got to understand, ladies and gents out here, coaches, anybody watching this. If you diet too hard, you do too much cardio, you got too low calories, you're going to basically be burning muscle off your body. And in wellness, where we already need a demanding amount of muscle, right? It takes a lot of volume, a lot of sets, a lot of reps, a lot of work, years of work to attain the right muscle for wellness. Well, if you burn it off, it's going to take you a long time to gain it back. So if anything, like I've said before, the best way to come into a show obviously would be on par, on point, exactly where you should be. But if you're unsure, maybe you're hitting it for the first time, or you don't know what this level show is, or what these judges will want to see, etc. Well, come in a little softer, if anything, because guess what you can do then? And I do this sometimes with competitors, where they'll come in and they'll be like, yeah, we need to see a little bit more conditioning. They got third or second, but we want that first. Well, now we take 2 weeks, we do a little bit more of this or that, change the macros a little maybe, and then boom, we put it back on stage, and there we are, getting what we want, first place, overalls, all that. And so really, that's what it comes down to. It's far better than being like, oh yeah, they don't have the right muscle, you guys burnt off too much muscle in prep, and now 6 months, year, maybe 2 before you're going to be back on stage. It's crazy. So don't do that type of stuff. Make sure you're on par with what the divisions are looking for. And obviously, by the way, I'm speaking here on my opinion, on my behalf, on the information I've learned. But all the official rules are on NPC News Online, and you can see that there. The training stuff, that's all me, you guys. You're not going to get any of that on the website, on the rule page, or anything like that. This, when it comes to training and what I'm talking about, that's all my expert opinion from what I do, my profession, my day in, day out job right here, being the coach on TeamFFLEX. We're not exactly 100% done right now. I want to tell you what my evolution, the idea of where we're going to go, is going to be just after the break. So we lapped from where it started. I've covered every damn big competition that's gone on wellness. If you haven't seen those that coverage on this channel, or my comparisons to bikini, any of that, we've done so much content on wellness, it's almost mind-boggling. It blows my brain. You can check all that out. It's on here, TeamFFLEX TV. Make sure you subscribe, honestly, because I'm gonna keep all these updates coming, you guys. This is fresh new stuff right now going on that I know a lot of people probably still didn't even hear about or see or anything, and now you know. And it's going to help you get further with your career as a competitor, period, but especially if you're competing in wellness. So make sure you subscribe, and if you get anything out of it, please share the video for me. I appreciate it. All right, so let's talk about the evolution. We knew what it was going to be when they announced it vaguely. They didn't say a lot. And, I talked to Sandy, I talked to some other people at the time, and they couldn't say a lot. We had to wait kind of for the official rules, but we did get a glimpse at, other countries that had been doing wellness, because even though wellness is a brand new category for the States, NPC, IFBB in the States, it's been going on worldwide for a while. And that's, where we're getting a lot of the variants from, right? We're getting competitors from, Europe coming in, doing wellness. We're getting competitors down in Brazil coming in, doing wellness. We're getting competitors in Canada coming in, doing, that's what's been leading to a lot of that variedness, right? And now, as shows have been happening, we've been kind of getting progressively a better and better look of what they actually want to see. Dare I say that at the North Americans, that's probably the most accurate example of exactly what they want to see in wellness, because they've changed some rules since the Arnold. They've changed some rules, since other shows have been going on. They've changed some of the stuff that they said they're looking for in the judging and things like that. And, the updated information is all out. And that was literally a week ago. So that's probably our best look of exactly where you need to be for wellness. And I really think that it's going to stay in this spot. We might see it go even a little bit more out of the extreme zone. That's kind of what happened, right? Wellness sort of started as this division where it was going to be new, but we had a lot of people that are already well advanced in it from other countries and things like that. They came here, and it almost leveled up the extremity, I guess you could say, the conditioning level, the muscularity level, the difficulty level. These are all ways you could describe it very quickly. And with a new division, this is what you see across the board. You're going to see the evolution. I mean, I've literally talked about the evolution of many divisions, bikini, men's physique. I have videos on these types of things, but we'll see that eventually with wellness too. Right now, we're seeing it on a micro scale. I think it's going to be a solid other year, 2 years before we start to see exactly, you know, obviously what's being rewarded, what's not. And for now, we can take what we're learning, what we're hearing, what we're getting, what we're seeing, what is being rewarded is what they want to see now. And the reason I say, you know, it's going to take a few years is because there has to be a certain amount of shows, a certain amount of athletes that come in, a certain amount of people that try, a certain amount of pros to really define a division. That's really what it takes. And even then, you know, that's always changing. And it's why it's important to stay on the up and up of what's going on, what the judges want to see, where they want you to be, because that is always changing, right? If you look at bikini, where it started compared to now, dramatically different. It's a whole different division, honestly. It looks nothing like it did when it started, and we see that with many divisions across the board, pretty much them all actually, and we'll see that again with wellness. So I think honestly right now wellness is in the best spot it's been. It's the most realistic, it's the most attainable, it's the most, you know, makes more people want to get into it because it doesn't look so extreme. It doesn't look like you need to train for 5-10 years before you can compete here. You know, it looks like something you can do, and that's exactly how it should be, because at the end of the day, just like bikini and you know, wellness, these are the easiest women's divisions in the sense of what they require. You don't have to be, in other words, striated and super lean and very low body fat and all that. Obviously, you're going to train very hard. I mean, none of these divisions are easy. The sport of bodybuilding is never easy. It's a very tough sport physically, very tough sport mentally, and it's really only for the people that can really handle that lifestyle. But at the end of the day, it's at the, you know, the tier. If we had to look at a tier of development and conditioning and all that, they're at the lower level tier. So the more attainable tiers, in other words, and that's a good thing. That's exactly what it should be, almost like an introduction into the sport where you can find yourself and where to go. And so the last thing I want to say, you know, is I think that we're going to keep heading down that path. I think it's a great spot. I think you should get on stage. If you've thought about wellness and you're kind of going back and forth between wellness, bikini, hey, go compete in both. Try it out. See what the judges tell you. The judges now, they know that we're seeing, you know, they know, oh, you should probably move over to wellness. You should probably move to bikini. You might try this. You might try that. Do what you can do to get on stage and get feedback, ladies and gentlemen. That's the best thing you can do. And otherwise, you know, try to get what you can, learn what you can. NPC News Online, they have all the rules there. They're going to have updates there. I'm going to keep updating you guys with whatever I learn, whatever I know to help you get better, help you get further. And if you want an extra bit, go to my website, try our free trial, TeamFFLEX.com, email in the box, all right? Hope you got something out of today. It's Fitness Fire, one of 5 shows I run all week for you. I'll be back tomorrow for Gains the Clock, which is Q&A, where again, we're covering your questions on that channel, on that show about wellness. So if you got any, drop them in the comments. I'll throw them in tomorrow. Otherwise, we got question box on Instagram, things like that, all right? So see you tomorrow. Please subscribe, share. Thanks for watching. Coach Rye is out.